Hi folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. Well, you know, we have a lot more than just bass and tournament bass out in the St. Lawrence River. And one of the people that came to one of our tournaments, he's been fishing for years and years, and he was one of the most successful walleye fishermen I knew back a decade or so ago when there were organizations in Messina and Ogdensburg that were helping stock walleyes. He was always a part of these organizations. He was always one of the top fishermen. And he came to one of our last tournaments, and I was talking to him beside his car, and he told me, I said, "Bob, have you been out fishing walleyes at all?" And he said, "Yeah." He said he'd been catching some really big walleyes on the Canadian side. He said much bigger than what you would usually catch in any numbers. We're talking about fish 28 to 30 inches long. And he also made the statement to me, he says, you know, when I go out around here, he says, the number of walleyes is astounding. He said, I catch so many small walleyes that you never saw before. I don't know where they're all coming from, he said, but boy, we've got a number of walleyes. And, you know, recently, this has been one of our biggest concerns with New York deciding not to stock walleyes in our area anymore in the St. Lawrence River. And so where are they going to come from? How is our walleye population going to persist? Well, the DEC feels that it is persisting. And Bob, what he was telling me, really supports that. He says, I haven't seen so many small walleyes as I'm catching right now. Now, one of the ways Bob fishes the St. Lawrence most of the time is he has become an avid perch fisherman. And so now for him to be catching walleyes, it's sort of a throwback to what it once was. So we do have a number of walleyes out there in the river from what people are telling me. And, you know, I do believe that walleyes are a magic fish for our region. I think that most local anglers, that's one of their key targets, that they want to go out and catch walleyes. We know they taste better than just about any fish, but there's something about them. There's an allure to walleyes. It's different than a lot of fish. I know when I'm fishing the tributary rivers, if I can ever find a spot that holds a school of walleyes, I think I've found gold. And that's what it's like for me. And I know that whenever I mention walleyes on some of these shows, and people from other areas hear me say walleyes, they immediately tune in to hear more about it, because walleyes have that kind of drawing power. And we really do have wonderful walleye fishing in this area, not just in the St. Lawrence, but in our tributaries as well. And most people don't search them out in like the Grass or Racket River, but there's really good populations of walleyes there. Anyway, I was glad to talk to Bob, and I was glad to hear that he feels that the walleyes are really predominant and prevalent right now out in the St. Lawrence River. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report.